Hello, I'm Chris and welcome to the Fragrant Divide. I know it's been a while since my last upload, so thank you for checking this out. In this video, I wanted to share what I wore the most last fall and winter seasons. We just recently had a fresh coat of snow in our mountains, so it made me think of this list before we completely transition to spring. Not all of these are necessarily winter-specific fragrances, but these are the ones that I frequently use despite the cold temperatures. First up is Elixir de Merveilles from Hermes, created by Jean-Claude Ellena. If you are not familiar with the Merveilles collection from Hermes, the main recurring theme here is ambergris. Their interpretation of ambergris is basically a slightly sparkling candied muskiness, which is present in all of the ones that I've tried from the line. And Elixir de Merveilles is no different. Its overall vibe is a candied orange, musky dark amber. It's slightly sweet in kind of an earthy way, plus it has a little bit of a pininess to it. I know it's a cliche, but the smell of this is highly linked to Christmas, and I do relate to that as well, but I'm not exactly sure why. Another amber is Rose Flash from the Towerville collection of Tower perfumes, created by Andy Tower, of course. This one is a simple, straight-up jammy rose, paired with a woody, earthy, dry amber base. The jamminess of the rose is a little bit of a fruity undertone, and it has that brown sugar, crumbly, like dry, but still a little bit sticky texture to it. It's an extrait, it's strong, it projects, it's an enjoyable wear, and it's discontinued, sadly. Continuing with the amber theme, Tom of Finland, now known as Queen Suede, from Etat Libre d'Orange by Antoine Lee. It's primarily a powdery latex leather with a piney amber base. It's easy to wear while still being interesting enough. It has pretty decent performance, and it's priced well. I did a more thorough review of this in another video, and I will link it down below. I still have not tried an official Queen Suede sample, but once I do, I will add a comment in this video and in the Tom of Finland video. Next, New Remus Extreme from L'Artisan Parfumeur. This one is fairly simple. It's a well-tempered blackberry with an almost soapy, fluffy musk. There's something about the right amount of sweetness and the diffusiveness of the musk that seem to complement cold temperatures. Sadly, in 2025, I don't think $250 for 100 ml is justified at all. I got this in 2021 for $185. I did have a $20 discount at that time because it was during L'Artisan's sale event. But now it just seems too expensive for what it is. This next one is considered a freshie. Habit Rouge L'Eau, to my nose, is a citrus patchouli vanilla fragrance. This actually put me off and I avoided wearing it for the longest time because I couldn't stand the dated, fake-smelling citrus opening. But dang was I missing out. Once I got over that citrus smell, the dry down is really where the beauty resides. There are many theories on what the so-called Guerlain is, which is considered the signature base of older Guerlain perfumes, but my guess is that this one has it. It has this incredible hum of patchouli, vanilla, and jasmine, the same humming notes that I've smelled in two other Guerlains. I'm not really familiar with the Guerlain at all. I'm sure it's more complex than patchouli, vanilla, jasmine, so please let me know down in the comments if you're familiar with it. Does Habit Rouge L'Eau smell old? Yes, it does. Does it smell classy? Yes, very. So, speaking of old, Mitsouko is one of the oldest, most well-known commercially available fragrances in the market right now. It's one of the most popular chypres ever created. It opens with this aura of dry, balmy, aromatic, almost gasoline-like leather, most likely coming from the fractionated oak moss and some spices. That opening eventually tones down and turns into what I assume is the Guerlain accord of patchouli, vanilla, jasmine, and more. Those are not exactly the notes listed for this perfume, but the end effect is very similar to the dry down of Habit Rouge L'Eau. But here, a dry, creamy jasmine seems to be more pronounced. Mitsouko is also popularly known to be a peach perfume. I don't get peach here at all, but it does give off a hint of fruit in the dry down. I remember seeing a video of Victoria from the blog Bois de Jasmin, one of the OG perfume journalists and bloggers, I think, and the video was about training your nose on how to smell the peach note in Mitsouko. What that tells me is that the peach note is not outright detectable in this perfume. Also, I have never smelled older versions of this, so I have nothing to compare to. Admittedly, it does smell dated, but that doesn't make it any less beautiful. Definitely one of my favorites. Another peach perfume that I wore a lot is Poupre d'Automne from Violet Parfums, created by Nathalie Lorson. This is frustratingly another discontinued favorite. This was a panic purchase last year when Violet Parfums updated their branding and bottle design, and they decided to drop this. Supposedly, the reason is for poor sales. This is pretty much a rose violet perfume with a dominant dry, patchy, chalky iris note, with a fruity ripe peach and berry opening. This works so well in the cold because there's an accompanying ambrox warmth to it that comes out somewhere in the mid and dry down. This would have been a really good alternative to Chanel's increasingly expensive Misia from the L'Exclusives collection. Next up is Ylang Ylang Nosy Bee from Paris Monte Carlo. This has a hint of citrus in the opening, a big dose of sweet Ylang Ylang, supported by a dry, fluffy, powdery vanilla base, and maybe some musk. Though it opens quite sweet, the dry down is actually so well balanced and almost delicious actually, and I love smelling my shirt after a few hours of wearing this. Following the floral theme, Angelique Noire from Guerlain is another frequently worn and a personal favorite of mine during cold days. Because of my low tolerance to sweetness, the almondy, heliotropy vanilla base levels out so nicely in the cold, all the while making that beautiful bitter green Angelica stand out a little bit more. I think that almost everybody knows about this perfume, so there is really not much else to say about it. Another favorite is the Fille de Berlin from Serge Lutens. This one is a full-on oily red rose, supported by syrupy honey, with a hint of metallicness in there. In my Q&A tag video, I called this a slutty perfume. There's just something so confidently sexy about this one. Of course, as a man, that statement is lost on me, but on a lady, I'm sure it's just absolutely gorgeous. This next one is a bit of a surprise to me. I've had this travel size of Moonlight Patchouli from Van Cleef & Arpels for many years, and I've always dismissed it as nice and just relegated it as a bedtime scent. For some reason, rose patchouli started turning me off, and I've never really been a fan of the much-loved, very popular Portrait of a Grieving Widow, so Moonlight Patchouli seems to be my preferred style in this genre at the moment. The prominence of the bright iris really highlights that moonlight characteristic. The sheerness of the patchouli gives it an almost incensey vibe, without explicitly having incense in it. It's such a nice easy wear, it's classy, and it's not overbearing. And finally, Kintsugi from Masque Milano. This one is probably the only fragrance on this list that I almost exclusively only use in colder temperatures. This is a raspberry, violet, incensey suede leather without actually containing incense. It uses patchouli heart, which is, depending on the quality, is just patchouli that has a much higher concentration of the molecule patchoulol. And a high concentration of that molecule results in an incensey, sheer, smoky effect. Kintsugi to me is quite a strong perfume, and while the raspberry fruitiness and incense project from opening to the late dry down, this sticky sweet, syrup-soaked, bread-like feeling intensifies somewhere in the mid and early dry down. That's often too much for my increasingly sensitive nose, so the cold really helps control that intensity. That sticky sweetness also lends a little bit of a candied aspect to the raspberry. This thing projects, so I only spray a little bit of it. It's a good thing that the atomizer is one of those sensitive pressurized atomizers where you can pretty much control how much product squeezes out of the nozzle. I am such a sucker for raspberry suedes and leathers, so this is totally my jam. It's also undoubtedly in the company of Tuscan leather from Tom Ford. I just had to do a special mention because it's been in the background of this video all this time. This is the seasonal Honeycrisp Apple candle from Trader Joe's, which is a grocery store chain here in the US, just in case you didn't know. And it's the best $4 candle you could buy during the fall season. It's such a simple, realistic apple smell, and it diffuses so much from the tin without even lighting the candle itself. So yeah, I just had to share that. I hope that was informative in some way, and thank you for watching.